Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Mindset Mentors podcast. I am finally on video as I promised, and it's taken me a while because I am, as you guys know, a one woman show. So I don't really have all the technical knowledge, but I have a lot of knowledge that I want to share, and I have a lot of stories that I want to share. And in the process of sharing my stories and the things that I have learned over the years, I hope to maybe inspire or help spark some kind of inspiration within you or motivation within you to go out there and be the best version of yourself. And that is purely my intention of this podcast. So, welcome. We were on hiatus for about 2 months. Our last episode was in August, and now we're going pretty quickly into the end of the year. It's November. And so, finally, here with a new topic. So, welcome to episode 16 of the Mindset Mentors podcast. I am your host, Nikki K, and this episode is titled How to Enjoy Your Alone Time Without Feeling Lonely. Let me tell you, loneliness is such an epidemic, and I know that we've all felt lonely in some forms, in some time periods of our lives, where we've absolutely felt so defeated. We have felt so low. We felt just like the world was crumbling around us because of that feeling of loneliness. And I'm here to tell you that not only we can be alone and be okay with it, but we can figure out a way to be alone and actually enjoy our alone time. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode. So, in no means am I here to tell you in this episode today that you have to be alone and be closed off to the world, be closed off to relationships, be closed off to friendships, be closed off to people. That is in no way the intention of this episode. This episode is for us to understand that there are times in life where you have to be alone, physically alone. There are times in life where maybe you're single, maybe you're for an extended period of time, you're single, or maybe you just are traveling somewhere for work and you have to be alone, or your partner is traveling away somewhere for work and you have to be alone. There's different situations where you just have to be alone. And a lot of times, yes, we are able to cope in the moment of being alone with social media, with watching TV, movies, whatever, whatever, whatever. But my intention here with this episode is to tell you that you don't have to just use the things that are around you to cope with being alone, but you can actually enjoy the time that you're spending alone, that you can actually, not just be alone and be okay with it because you're forced to be in a situation, but even take yourself out to be alone because you just enjoy that presence that you have with yourself and that presence of just being by yourself. That's something that we're just so afraid of. And I was as well for the longest time. When I was in college, I was, in a situation where I was just so attached to this person. Like I would feel full body like anxiety, like full on separation anxiety every time like I had to go to class or this person had to go to class or we had to do like different things and like live lives, and not all of that had to be with each other every single day because we had things to do in college and we had to go to class and all these other things. So in my mind back then, I thought that's love. That feeling of just emptiness. I wish I didn't know was emptiness back then, but that feeling of just like anxiety in the pit of the stomach of just dropping every time that like I was away from this person made me realize that, made me think at that time that I was in love. I thought that's what love was. I thought that's what the feeling of love is. And I really enjoyed that feeling because I was like, this is love. Um, Years later, years later, I realized that that wasn't love. That is just a fear of being alone. That is just a fear of not being okay with just being by myself. That was codependency and a host of all these other things, that we can talk about through various episodes. But that phase of life that I went through and those emotions that I felt at that time is what I wanted to kind of talk about, and how, as someone who was just so codependent on relationships and people and always having to surround myself with doing something outside of me and always trying to get that external, something external of me to make me feel good and make me feel happy, how damaging that can be. And, I'm only sharing this also because I know I'm not the only one. There's no way I'm the only one. As I always say on this podcast, that we're all the same. Is that essentially, just trying to find the word. Inherently, yeah. So you get the point, right? Like we're all the same, but yes, we're living different stories. Yes, we're living different lives and what it looks like externally, but we all feel the same things. We all feel the same emotions. So, in this episode, I'm going to give you three ways, mind, body, soul. That's what this podcast is basically built on how we can work with our mind, body, and soul to become better and to level up in our lives in different phases of life. I'm going to give you three things that you can focus on to help yourself enjoy your alone time, seek out alone time. Try to not be so attached to people. Not that I'm telling you you shouldn't attach yourself to people, but how you can manage yourself and your emotions and self-regulate when there are times when you have to be alone or are alone or want to be alone. I think Joe Dispenza said this once. I think he said something along the lines of where attention goes, energy flows, right? I've heard him say it. I don't know if that's something that he came up with or someone else said it. I'm sorry if someone else said it, but I heard Joe Dispenza say, and if you don't know who Joe Dispenza is, I would highly recommend Google him and search his work because his work has like tremendously helped me with my mindset and how I choose to live my life and see life in general these days. But he said, where attention goes, energy flows. Basically meaning you your life and the outcomes of your life are directly dependent upon where you choose to put your attention to. So, with that in mind, right, and having that as a base knowledge, as a foundation, how can we use this to better ourselves, mind, body, soul level when we are alone and not having to feel lonely? So, let's start with mind, body, soul, right? Let's start with mind. What do you have to do for your mind? You have to marry yourself to something that is bigger than you. And when I say marry yourself, I mean really come into union with something that is bigger than you. Either that could be, if you're looking at big picture, that could be marrying yourself to your purpose. It could be marrying yourself to a service of some kind that you want to provide. It could mean marrying yourself to, a creative pursuit. It could be marrying yourself to your job, even your 9 to 5 job. You got to marry your mind to a service, a job, a creative pursuit, a project, a something that gives you joy, something that makes you feel excited, something that makes your mind just go like, I can't wait to wake up and work on this, or I can't wait to wake up and do this or read this or write this. It has to be something that is going to get your mind and the wheels in your brain turning every morning. I'm specifically very intentionally using the word marry because that is to help you understand that that's how close of a relationship you need to have with your mind. So for me, what I have married myself to, or married my mind to all the projects that I work on. I have married myself to the writing work that I do. I have married myself to this podcast to create content. I have married my mind to reading. I love reading, and I think knowledge is something that I'm just inherently seeking. If you guys know me, I'm not a huge like a Netflix person, I'm not a huge like movie person. I will watch movies and I will watch shows here and there, but I'm not huge on consuming content as much as I like consuming knowledge. And I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone else. I'm just telling you that's what I do. That's what I naturally tend to be drawn towards. So I love reading and I love documentaries. So things like that. Like these are the things that I have intentionally married my mind to because that gives me that joy of waking up in the morning or even throughout the day, right? Throughout the day, like if I'm just hanging out by myself, and you guys know, like I live by myself and I'm single, so most of the time I'm spending time by myself. And in that time that I'm spending by myself, I love reading and engaging my mind in all these things. So I would say to you, find something that is exciting to you. Find something that you enjoy doing. Find something that makes you excited to share with the world. Getting your mind out of the I all the time and moving into we, that makes a huge difference because when you're married to a bigger purpose, something that's bigger than you, you don't think of like poor me, this me, that me, and you think of we, and you think of us and how we can help people and how we can do our little part in bringing something in the world. And as soon as you shift your mind from me to we, your problems just become so much smaller, trust me, and you just become so much lighter because you're not just sitting and consuming the sadness of like, oh my God, I'm like alone and I'm bored and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And, why is this person not texting me back? Or like, does he like me? Like, you're so not focused on things like that anymore. And you're focused on giving, which is another key topic within this mindset space where you are thinking of something that you want to marry yourself to something bigger than you and you want to be of service where you are giving to people. And an interesting thing that happens, like the more you give, there is I don't know the exact scientific words, but I will find it for you. But there was a study that was done that said that the more you give, there is a part of your brain that actually lights up with positive hormones that make you feel good. I don't want to say it's dopamine because I don't know. It very much could be, but just know that there are feel good hormones that are released in your brain when you are doing something for someone, when you are giving. And that's key, right? That is essential in this feeling of marrying yourself to a purpose that is bigger than you. Number two, so we spoke about the mind. Let's talk about your body. You have to marry yourself to your body. Okay. A lot of the times when we're anxious, that or when we're feeling lonely, it comes up in forms of feeling anxiousness. It comes up in forms of body ache and feeling tired and insomnia, or sometimes even hypersomnia because you don't want to deal with the feelings of loneliness, right? You have to marry yourself to your body. And once you kind of feel that presence within your body, and this is what I'm going to tell you to read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And if you are in the spiritual field, which I feel like a lot of you, if you are listening to my podcast, are, if you are spiritual, are into self development, are into, bettering yourself and all of these things, self help space, you definitely would have heard of The Power of Now. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend you go read that book because it goes so deep into how you can deal with the pain within your body and how you can transmute that to feeling better feelings and how you can self regulate. Let me tell you, as long as we're alive on this planet, there will always be something that we are trying to solve, right? There will always be problems. When you solve this problem, you're going to get to the next problem, When you get this thing that you want so bad, you're going to get it and then you want the next thing, right? That is just part of the human experience. The goal with all of this is for us to better manage that experience, is to have more of a bird's eye view perspective of our lives and help us navigate it with more ease, without a lot of worry, without a lot of stress. That is the point. So when I say marry yourself to your body, this is so important because once you start feeling the presence of life, the energy of life within your body, once you feel what your body feels like, what the vibration of your body feels like, it's done. I think you're more than halfway to enlightenment because that is something that we so easily neglect in our every single day because we're so stuck in our minds. We're so stuck in the I mindset. We're so stuck in what does this person think about me? Does this person like me? What is my boss going to say? Like, oh my God, I have all these deadlines. We're so stuck up in our minds that we neglect what life feels like in this body. So we can do this actually together right now. Let's just close your eyes. Just close your eyes and just breathe. Take a couple deep breaths. Just try to clear your mind for a little bit. And I want to ask you to just count down 3, 2, 1. Be as calm as you can. And just think. Just think about your toes. Just think about your toes. Bring all your attention, all your focus of your mind just to your toes, and you'll actually start to feel it. You'll actually start to feel like a presence, a vibration, like an energy, you know, on your in your toes. And the more you do this, the more you're going to get better with it. And one of the things, the techniques that Eckhart Tolle talks about in The Power of Now is to bring that attention to your body. He says start out with your feet, start out with your toes, slowly bring that attention to your legs, to your body, your chest, your arms and your hands, your eyes, your nose, and then all the way up. The more you do this, the more you start feeling, practicing what it's like to be present in your body, the more appreciation. After a while, you just get appreciation for the fact that you are even walking. You can see, you can hear, you can feel, you can, just basic senses. And you really develop an appreciation for that. And once you do the practice of meditation and, being in your body and marrying yourself to your body and feeling presence of life in your body, it just makes you feel just so grateful for every single breath. And you're no longer in the anxieties that come up. So when I was very new back in 2020 2021 to living by myself, I didn't know what to do with myself. I lived with my parents for 5 years after college. Before college, I was always with someone or with friends, so I was never fully by myself. 2020, 2021, when I moved out, is when I was actually forced to fully be by myself and with myself. And, I was just a hot mess. I was a mess. I didn't know what to do with myself. And it was also 2020 and COVID. So, like, it's not like I could travel. It's not like I could, see my friends as often and things like that. And so I was just at a loss. And I had to figure out ways to manage that feeling because I knew, like, if I did not let it, if I did not, beat it, it would completely consume me and it would be game over. So I had to actively force myself to get better and learn different techniques. And I'm telling you this because this technique 100% changed my life. Marrying myself to my body through the practice of meditation is absolutely wonderful. And I highly, highly recommend you try it. Just try it. And we spoke about the mind, we spoke about the body, and now I'm going to talk about obviously the soul. Obviously, I'm going to bring spirituality into every single topic on this episode because I just love it and I love sharing it and I love just talking about it. So, number three, you have to marry yourself to a higher power. You just do. You have to marry yourself to, some people like to call it the universe. Some people like to call it God. Some people like to call it both. Some people like to call it your higher self. Some people like to call it an energy. Whatever it is that you want to call it, you have to marry yourself to it. Because, and this is very, very important because when you build your life on faith, when you build your life on that thing that is something bigger than you, you'll never feel alone. It's just, you will never feel alone. Because I truly believe that I am, because I walk with faith and because I walk with God and I believe in the universe and I believe in all these things. And I'm sure if you're listening to me so far in, I'm sure you also, believe in something that's bigger than you. And if you don't, that's okay. That's okay. It took me a long time to get to where I am today and what I believe in. But when you marry yourself to that higher power, you'll just never feel alone. You'll always be surrounded with a feeling of God, love, you know, angels, ancestors, I know it's going to sound crazy if you're not in the, if you're not in this kind of mental space that I am in, you're not spiritual, it's going to sound crazy, I know. But once you get to that point of marrying yourself to a force higher than you, such as the universe or God, you'll just never feel alone. You'll always feel unconditional love. And I will say there's ways that you can actually communicate with a higher power. Some people like to believe in signs and synchronicities and coincidences and all these different things, which I think is maybe like a whole topic on its own, and I could do a whole episode about just spirituality and what it means to me, and how to communicate with, use your intuition to communicate with, a higher being and all of that. But know that for the purpose of this episode, the more you spend time with yourself, the more you meditate, the more you bring your presence and your focus into your body, the more you journal, for example. And I want to mention journaling has been such a huge part of my life. Just putting my thoughts down on a piece of paper. These things is something that inevitably you do it long enough, and usually it's not that long. I think it takes maybe about 3 weeks of really spending time alone and focusing on yourself and focusing on meditating and the higher power. You're going to inevitably find a sense of just calm and peace that is so beautiful. It's so unique. It's so special. And all I want. And why do you think that people, why do you think people who have found God or found the universe, why do you think they always want to come out and talk about it? It's because they want everyone else to feel that feeling. Back in the day, I used to think, oh, people talk about like religion and spirituality and all these woo-woo stuff. They're doing it for ulterior motives. They're doing it because they want to make some kind of monetary value or make money out of it. And to be honest with you, I'm not saying not all of them are genuine people, but I am saying that there are a lot of genuine people actually that, when they talk about God and they talk about the universe and all these things, is because they've experienced it and they want other people to experience it. Because once you feel those feelings or those emotions, life is just so much easier. It doesn't get easy in a way that, yes, you're still going to have problems, you're still going to have issues, you're still going to have things and battles to fight and all these things as long as you're alive on this planet. But the way that you approach those things change. And same with loneliness, right? And I will say, if every now and then, as being a human being, I am also sometimes hit, sudden feelings of, oh my God, it'd be really nice if I was cuddled up with somebody right now. But that's fine. And that's human. And I feel those feelings and I allow myself to go through those feelings. But I come back to my faith and I come back to the universe and to God and ground myself back in it and keep going because that's all we can do. And such is life. And we have to keep going. And, if you're thinking about how you can develop yourself to be more in connection to God and be more in connection with your faith and all of those things, silence is the best way to do it. Loneliness in general, or anything in general, right? You want to be more fit, you have to like work out and like break up those muscles so you can build bigger muscles, right? That's pretty much what it's like for anything in life, is that's what I've learned. You want to deal with being alone, you have to be alone. You have to face the things. You want to get over the feeling of loneliness. You have to go head on and feel lonely and put yourself in a position where you are forced to be alone. And then you learn how you come out of it, and then it gets better. So if you want to build a better connection with God, I would say that's done in silence usually. That's done when you're alone. God and the universe, I feel like, talks to you when you're alone and when you're silent, and that's when you can hear. Another great message that I got from another podcast was when the host was saying something along the lines of, sorry, I'm going to say this right. Your prayer is when you're asking God questions. Meditation is when you are listening, right? So again, building that connection to God, universe, higher self, your soul, it happens through silence and isolation and being alone. So here to tell you that once you master your mind, body, soul in different ways that works best for you, by marrying your mind to a purpose or a hobby or something that's bigger than you and something that's of service to the world, your mind is going to be more balanced, and your mind is not going to want external validation or external attachments to feel better, because your mind is going to be occupied thinking about how you can serve people or how you can, you know, better people or, just put out maybe creative projects. Your mind is going to be engaged in that, where it's not going to be looking for external things to attach itself to feel better or to feel good or fulfilled. You have to marry yourself to your body, where you have to get in touch with your body, what it's feeling, the emotions that come up, learn to regulate your nervous system. And just in those moments where you feel like just alone, or you feel like you're lonely and you're sad, or and you just feel defeated, come back into your body, and do that meditation that I told you about. That's in the power of now. Get in touch with your body, feel the emotions, feel the life force of your body. And that's done again through quiet and meditation. And finally, connect yourself to God, connect yourself to the universe, connect yourself to the higher power. Because trust me, once you master these three things, you are just, you're never going to feel lonely again. You will just always feel a presence, and it's the most beautiful, beautiful feeling in the world. And also, I want to say, don't beat yourself up if it's taking you longer, maybe, to get there. I think I started really getting into this kind of work in 2021. I was a hot mess in 2020. 2021, when I was like, you know what, I need to change up my life. And, I put that initiative, intention into the universe, and then I just started attracting things that would help me get there. I've listened to tons and tons of podcast episodes, read a lot of books on self-help, done a lot of meditation work, and I will tell you that this stuff is real, and you, end of the day, get out of it what you put into it. So if you are someone that is struggling, if you are someone that currently feels just lonely, know that you don't have to. You know that there are ways to get out of it, and know that there are things that you could do to not only cope with loneliness, not only cope and be okay with being alone, but fully, fully, fully enjoy it. With that, that is the conclusion of episode 16 of the Mindset Mentors podcast. Once again, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my main Instagram account is Nikki K. That's at niki.kay. And my podcast Instagram is at Mindset Mentors. You can find all of that in the description. So thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week with another interesting episode.